There's a ghost in your group of friends, someone who used to light up the room but now hardly ever shows up. They're not depressed, they're not sick, and they haven't become antisocial. They've just disappeared. You may not have noticed it right away, but remember, this was the person who asked uncomfortable questions in conversations, who saw what no one else wanted to see, who always seemed to be on the edge between lucidity and restlessness. Now they've disappeared from social media, don't respond to messages enthusiastically, and avoid get-togethers. And when they do show up, they have a distant look in their eyes, as if they're only there out of politeness, but they've already left inside. Here's the twist. This ghost is often one of the smartest people you know. They're not the stereotypical weird hermit. They're doctors, teachers, artists, executives who used to shine, and now they've turned off the lights. What is going on? The answer is uncomfortable, and perhaps once you see it, you will never be able to unsee it. These people did not withdraw from the world because they were fragile. They withdrew because they saw too much. They saw the surface where there should have been depth. They realized that society rewards noise, not value, that thinking has become a risk, that questioning makes you undesirable, that speaking the truth turns you into a threat. These are people who haven't given up on life, but they have given up on acting. They no longer found room for their authenticity in a structure that rewards performance and penalizes integrity. They didn't want to be the exception. They wanted to belong, but the cost was too high, betraying themselves. They disappeared because they can no longer stand the empty dance of appearances, because they refuse to participate in soulless rituals, because the world forced them to choose between belonging and remaining whole, and they chose to remain whole. You may be becoming one of them, or maybe you already are. And if that's the case, this video is your home. Here, your lucidity will not be punished. Your depth will not be simplified. Your pain will not be called drama, because the time has come to stop disappearing and start existing on this side, where consciousness is not a curse, but a calling. I didn't distance myself from people out of arrogance. I distanced myself because I was hungry. Superficial conversations sound like cardboard served on a porcelain plate to me. It's not contempt, it's intellectual malnutrition. While the world revolves around cliches, I long for questions that cut to the chase, for silences that say more than speeches. Imagine being an award-winning chef, forced to eat the same fast food every day. That's how I feel about most social interactions. Meetings, dinners, gatherings. They all seem like choreographed dances where no one remembers why they started dancing. Interaction has become performance. No one listens. No one dives in. They just repeat steps, smiles, and ready-made jokes. But I want to dive in, not float. What bothers me isn't the noise. It's the lack of depth. Social normality, this addiction to appearing, to belonging, to not disturbing, has turned human connection into a caricature of itself. I tried to adjust, tried to simplify my thoughts, shorten my arguments, soften my questions, but the truth is that every time I translate myself to fit in, something inside me breaks. The herd mentality suffocates me. Everyone is doing it is, for me, one of the most dangerous phrases in the language. I see brilliant people dissolving into the crowd, trading their originality for acceptance. I see leaders become copies, thinkers become trend parrots, and every time I share an idea that challenges the tide, the room goes cold. No one debates. They try to correct me, as if the mistake were in thinking differently. Society doesn't want thinkers. It wants trained followers. It rewards those who agree, not those who question. So when you insist on doubting, on investigating, on asking what no one wants to hear, you become a threat. Doubt is viral. A single thinker can destabilize the consensus of a crowd, and that's why I withdrew. Not out of contempt, but to survive on the surface. I didn't want to betray my mind to keep my tribe, so I built my own. Silent, invisible, but free. I see what others pretend not to see. It's not a gift, it's a curse. It's seeing the trap behind the glitz, the chains behind the choice. The world dresses its consumerism as freedom, but all I can see is a refined system of voluntary slavery. I buy, therefore I am. That's what we're taught from an early age. The equation is simple. Create insecurity, sell the cure, offer brief pleasure, and start over. I watch in silence as people reduce their identity to brands, confuse self-esteem with market value, and treat a new object as if it were a new self. But the feeling never lasts, because it was never real. Perhaps what scares me most is not the system itself, but the perfection with which it operates. It knows our weaknesses. It turns desires into debts and needs into clicks. The most tragic thing, it works. It works so well that even questioning it makes you an outcast. I tried to fit in. I tried to participate in the race. I worked in jobs that made no sense, helping to move the gears of machines that only produced more noise. And inside, I died a little every day. One day I asked the question that everyone avoids: what is the meaning of all this? The answer was an uncomfortable silence, followed by accusing glances. Asking the meaning of the game makes you unemployable, because the game wasn't meant to be questioned. It was meant to continue. And when you start to see that, you realize that the only way out is desertion. So I left. Not out of failure, but out of lucidity. I chose meaning over salary, freedom over things. And of course they called me a failure, because that's how they label those who don't consume enough to validate themselves. But I don't care anymore. I'd rather walk barefoot with my soul intact than wear designer shoes while my mind bleeds. Technology promised freedom, but delivered distraction. We became connected and lonely, intoxicated by screens, hungry for real presence. The digital world is a Vanity Fair, performance instead of truth, contact instead of connection. I tried to fit in, but every time I posted something real, it was chewed up by algorithms, reduced to short phrases, shallow likes, and misinterpretations. So I withdrew again, not out of fear of exposure, but out of respect for depth. Technology connects me to everyone but myself, and that, to me, is true exile. It's not that I hate the world, it's just that I refuse to participate in it with blinders on, and that choice comes at a high price. Modern society has created a system that rewards the exact opposite of what I value. The good die young, or die inside. The bad, they get promoted. It's hard to explain what it's like to see patterns invisible to the naked eye. You begin to perceive a distorted logic behind institutions. The honest are swallowed up. The manipulative rise to the top. Politics favors those who lie well. Business rewards those who exploit efficiently. The media rewards those who shout, not those who explain. Education values obedience, not originality. And art, even art, transformed into an algorithm, needs engagement, not soul. For a long time, I tried to find loopholes, places where my conscience and the world could coexist. But it was always the same dilemma. Compromise your values or stay on the sidelines. I chose the sidelines. Not because I'm better, but because my soul is priceless. Many say it's radicalism. But what I see is just consistency. I'd rather fail with integrity than win with masks. This, however, has consequences. You lose space, doors close, invitations stop coming, and silence begins to follow you everywhere. And then comes the exhaustion. Not physical, but existential. The exhaustion of having to lower yourself all the time, of translating your thoughts as if they were foreigners in a country that only speaks the language of mediocrity. For years I modeled simpler versions of myself, to fit in, to please, to not intimidate. But every time I do that, something breaks inside. There is pain in mutilating yourself intellectually, in hiding your perception, in pretending you don't see what is clearly there. And there comes a time when you give up. You stop trying to explain. You stop trying to adapt. It's not contempt, it's self-preservation. Because living in hiding is dying slowly. Today I choose my integrity, even if it costs me my presence. I prefer silence to the mutilation of being just a shadow of my mind. And if that makes me invisible, so be it. Because between being seen for who I am not and disappearing as someone who is whole, I choose to disappear whole. I have become someone who needs silence to breathe. In a world that spins at a hysterical pace, this makes me seem strange. But what few understand is that my silence is not absence. It is a search. It is reconstruction. It is a space where my thoughts can finally be heard. I live in a time where thinking has become a luxury. Modern life has been designed to prevent introspection. Constant stimuli, notifications every minute, demands that never cease. Everything is done to keep us busy, fast-paced, distracted. Because those who stop to think start asking dangerous questions. I stopped, and when I stopped, I realized something that many forget. Action without reflection is just movement. Doing without understanding is just noise disguised as productivity. The world calls it efficiency. I call it noise. My mind does not operate in chaos. It needs space to connect what no one else sees. It needs time to settle complex emotions. It needs silence to reorganize reality. But when I say this, I am seen as slow, lazy, someone outside the system. And maybe I am, outside a system that despises depth and exalts speed. Introspection has become my refuge. I don't run away from people, but from the excess they carry. I prefer an honest conversation with my chaos to a shallow dialogue with 1,000 voices. And no, it's not loneliness. It's a rare kind of company, one that only exists when I allow myself to hear what I feel, not just what others expect me to say. This choice made me seem disconnected, but the truth is, I've never been so deeply connected to who I am. I've discovered that introspection isn't an escape from life, it's a return to real life, the kind that doesn't need likes to exist or applause to make sense. Being introspective in a noisy world is like being a candle on a stage bathed in spotlights. No one sees you, but your flame continues to burn, silent, steady, burning away what is false and illuminating what is essential. And that's why I keep stepping away, not out of disdain, but out of necessity. Because in this fast-paced world, preserving your own mental space has become an act of rebellion, and I have chosen to be a rebel, silent but whole, alone but lucid, far away but awake. I didn't disappear because I wanted to. I disappeared because it no longer made sense to stay. It's not a sudden decision, it's a silent, almost imperceptible process. A distancing that begins inside, when you realize you're trying to save a world that doesn't want to be saved. When I walked away, society lost more than my presence. It lost my conscience. I was one of those who asked uncomfortable questions, who didn't accept "it's always been this way" as an answer, who dreamed of a better world, not out of utopianism, but out of ethical necessity. But living like this comes at a price. Little by little, I became irrelevant, silent, invisible, and I realized what few have the courage to admit. The world does not reject intelligence out of malice. It rejects it out of convenience. Because thinking hurts. Because change is demanding. Because the truth disrupts collective comfort. I didn't distance myself because I felt superior. I distanced myself because I hoped society would be better than it has been. And I found no room for that. Many of us are on the margins now. Doctors, artists, teachers, thinkers. Not because of failure, but because of lucidity. The real question is not why we distanced ourselves. It is, what kind of system drives your most conscious minds away? What society pushes your conscience into silence and rewards those who only shout the loudest? I'm still here, watching from the sidelines, hoping for something to change. But I won't sacrifice my lucidity to fit into a system that pretends everything is fine, because it's not, and pretending it is the worst form of madness. If this message resonated with you, if you have ever felt this silent distancing or recognized someone who disappeared like this, then I ask two things. First, like this video and subscribe to the channel. This simple gesture shows the algorithm that this kind of reflection needs to be heard. Second, consider leaving a donation of any amount. Every contribution strengthens this work and allows more silent voices, like mine, and perhaps yours, to find space to exist. If you've made it this far, write the word presence in the comments, because even when we're absent, we're still resisting, and that silent presence could be the beginning of a revolution.